Hello and welcome to Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena.
Where we're going to talk about all things shift, shifty days of the week.
I'm here for all this shift.
So let's just kind of get into it. I think we're going to try to do a little bit of an experiment with doing some of these healing cards, which are basically just asking deep questions.
Yeah, it's a way of building communication. They're called skin deep cards. And we have started using them quite often when we're with family or friends. I use them in workshops with strangers, and they've been a beautiful way to open up communication. And you just never know what we're going to dive into. So what it is that we have these stack of cards. We each pick one without looking at them. And then after staring at each other for about 30 seconds, which we already did, then we get to take a turn asking each other the question on the card.
Yeah, and for some reason, I think in my experience in the past is you feel safer asking these questions because the card is actually asking them. But in most cases, I want to know the answer either way. So
like
I'll
it's
pull
just
one,
the
you
card.
pulled
It's
one.
me. Yeah.
We each got a card.
All right.
All right. So ladies first, I would think.
Okay. So my card says, what's one thing you never would have done if it weren't for me?
Well, that's pretty easy because this whole thing, this whole shifting, some people only like to shift at home, and some people are comfortable with porta potties and all that other stuff. But I've, I guess I think that one's pretty easy. Is just that self-reflection and looking into myself and trying to understand the ways that I affect other people.
Yeah.
And how the stories that I've had, that things that have happened to me, how I use them to move through the world and how to adjust to that and cultivating the observer kind of thing in me. Yeah. I would say I wouldn't have that without you.
Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored. And I think I'd like to answer this too.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the one thing I never would have done if it weren't for you? And I would say that I would never have realized how much I didn't know you.
Oh.
And how much that happens in everyday life. Like that we don't know each other. We don't, that we have family members, we have people we've grown up with, we have children, siblings, all of that, mothers, fathers, and we don't really know each other until, the shift hits the fan.
Yeah.
And you got to go deeper. So had that not happened, I think, for you and really needing to make a change and reaching out, then I don't think I ever would have realized how little we actually knew each other, even being siblings.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could know each other that well.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because most of it is like we're on the surface. We're so, it's like we see each other at birthday
How's
parties.
it going?
Yeah. How's work?
Yeah.
How's work going? How's the family? Okay. And then you want some more barbecue? I mean, that's pretty much it. And you're just like, hey, yeah, he's great. She's great. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. Feelings not expressed.
No,
is
we
what
don't
fine
have
stands
no
for.
time for that.
I'm fine.
Yeah. And normally, like how often would we even be as brother and sister, fully adults, right, with families, would we actually ever spend time together? Like you and me.
Well, we didn't actually, just you and me. We always
We're in a group.
Yeah, like family settings type thing.
Yeah. Like
and
it wasn't a thing.
Really until now. But we always talked about it.
Yeah, we'd be like, oh, we got to make time for us to go. And it's like, we're so busy.
Yeah.
Well, you have your family. I have my family.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't in like that, like the shift stinks. And now we got to get together and we got to like talk because it's going deeper. We need to help each other out. And then that gave us an opportunity to really get to know each other and really ask some harder questions and really see our different perspectives on our own childhood.
Yeah, because I experienced it totally different than you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even something I thought of. So I think that, for me, that's the one thing.
I like that. That's really good. Okay, so my card. What have I healed in you?
That's sort of...
Well, it kind of goes into the same thing. Let's see.
Man, what have you healed in me? Wow. Well, I mean, I guess without even knowing that question was coming, it is this ability to want to go deeper with relationships specifically with my own children, and not just see them as children, because I realized like I saw my brother as just my brother. And when I realized how much I didn't know about you and your experience and how you experienced me, as your
I just
sister.
experienced labels.
Yeah, we just experienced
Mom,
roles.
Yeah, nurse, flight nurse, you know,
all those things.
sister.
Like just the superficial layers, my ambassador of me. And I think once we were able to really kind of dive deep with our own relationship and find like, wow, I didn't know I could be this close to my brother, like to another human being, that I thought I was like as close as you could possibly get to your sibling. Like, isn't that an unspoken, taken for granted closeness?
Yeah.
Because I think we always liked each other a lot. We love each other. I always knew if I was in trouble, I would call you. Like, I'm going to call my brother. He'll know what to do.
But do you think that's a function because you are in the, health and wellness field, and you happen to be a therapist of some sort, right? Like you're into this modality of like helping people. So how is that? Because we're siblings, right? So most people don't talk like that. I think the unique thing is that we're siblings and we actually talked, and you're probably the first human that I really connected with. Because I was like, okay, well, this is the first time I'm going to be fucking
vulnerable.
Yeah. I'm full on vulnerable, surrender. Like,
yeah,
I'm just going to let you know all my shit. Nobody else knows.
Yeah.
And so then that started something, but then that bond created dialogue that helped us to understand each other's viewpoints and all that.
Well, I think for sure it laid a foundation for there to be a sense of safety to be able to talk. But I think it did show me that in most relationships, and even ones I observe in other people, that it's very similar, that we don't really, we take for granted that we know one another. And so going into that relationship with you, going deeper and really being vulnerable and like, wow, moving into that space with you and talking about our own childhood and how we viewed things was very healing for me. But in the way that it allowed me to look at my own relationships with my own children and really not looking at them as the role of a child versus, and a mother, was to be like, how do I know you as a human? Because I realized there was another layer of depth of knowing someone that was also possible if I just started to ask more questions and be more present and really take myself out of like the, I have to be a good mother and I need you to view me that way, and or whatever the roles are. It's like, I just want to know you. I want to know about you. I want to know more about, who my kids are, who my husband is. Like, it just deepened my capacity for relationships in general. When I realized like what I thought I knew was not true. Like I thought that I know my brother.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I think that's a good segue into something that we were, talking about earlier, which is cultivating the observer.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think being able to get to a place where you can even know that that's possible, you have to start observing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And you start to realize that you are not your thoughts. And that's that awareness part, that we keep talking about, and that shift into it.
Yeah. The awareness, having come to the awareness that, whoa, I don't know this.
Yeah.
So it did create this pause of like, what else don't I know? And that created, space for more questioning. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, definitely it just creates more questions, just like every movie and every, book. It's like, wow, I just have more questions now.
Yeah.
And I think,
which can expand you if you just have better questions.
Yeah, but I think that's exciting because I think that's the point where people start to lose, the dream or that motivation or the drive, is when you stop wanting to expand or look for something more, So
into yourself.
So like, lately, especially in the last year, I just keep having these expansions or like this epiphanies, like, oh
shifts.
Gosh. Yeah, those are the shifts. Yeah.
Big shifts.
Yeah, those are the shifts that just sprinkle in, and you're going, wow, I'm realizing this about, this because it may be something that I'm consuming or reading. And it's just, I think Steve Jobs said, you can't connect dots for something that's in the future that hasn't happened. The connecting the dots has to happen, the things that happen behind. So as I'm absorbing these things, it just seems like all these dots are connecting. No wonder. This is why, So
you can't really see where you're going in the moment. Forest for the trees.
Yeah. But what's the way to see the way in the moment? That's the detachment. And
I think it's the pause. If you can find the pause, then the observer is on the other side of a pause. So if you're in like any situation that you feel like we talked about before was triggering, or you feel a trigger, then you can find the pause, and in that pause is where the observer stands. Okay. That's where it's like, I can see what's happening. That's the observance. I see or I feel what's happening. And now that part of you is able to make a choice, and respond instead of react. So cultivating the observer is just really finding the pause in between stimulus and response.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, finding a way to like flex that muscle and really get comfortable at like, being able to find that, even if it's a breath before you go into a reaction, that's where you're strengthening that observer of awareness. It's really awareness.
Yeah, I feel like the people that have said the most profound things to me often they don't talk a lot. They think a lot between their words, the pauses.
They're observing.
Yeah, I mean,
they're listening. Deep listening, maybe?
Yeah, see, I think that exercise, and I think we all inherently have that ability, because I think one of the examples that was brought up to me in therapy was, I have a big problem with like my mouth, my cussing, I cuss a lot. I talk, basically I just unfiltered.
Yeah. You talk a lot of shift.
Yeah, I talk a lot of shift. Oh, mad shift. So, but, I do have the ability when I'm in a professional setting to turn all of that off, right? So, because I can shut that off, that is the key, that that you
have a choice.
You have a choice, right? And that was explained to me in the past, and I was like, wow, but why can't I do that in those critical moments?
At home.
At home. And I think the biggest difference is being detached from it, because in a professional environment, it's a lot safer. I don't have a lot of, I love what I do, but this is not life-changing. Yeah, it's not personal. It's personal. It's my own personal business also. But in a way, there's a way to be detached from a professional involvement, because I realize that a person only has so much ability, and I'm comfortable calling in help, and I know how to navigate that space. So I think in a lot of ways, flexing that muscle of detachment can be, I'm trying to find ways to apply those things in my everyday life. Like how to switch that on to turn the mode on of like, not necessarily professional, but observer, because I truly feel like that's what that is.
Yeah, more response-able.
Yeah.
Instead of reactive. But, within our families or within our own like spouses or children, there's just so many things playing out. Everything can feel very personal. So that's where the observer comes in and go, it still isn't personal, whether you're at work or you're at home. Yeah. It's not personal.
Yeah, they're not like purposely, my kid's not purposely going, I'm going to go piss off dad right now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How the fuck can I piss off mom even more right now? Like, I can see she's stressed out after work, or dad's stressed out after work. I'm going to do something to really piss them off. I don't really walk around believing that that's their agenda. They're like genuinely good kids, but way better versions.
They're pinging your guitar string.
Yeah.
That's out of tune. It's like ding.
It's so complex, because on the other hand, because we went with so little growing up, like I tried to give my kids everything that I didn't have, but that also starved them from the struggle. Right?
Yeah. And maybe from your presence.
Yeah, it
Instead of presents with a T, you gave them presents.
Shit.
But not presents. So which one do you think they actually need is your presence?
Yeah.
But you have to be able to be present with yourself.
Yeah.
Before you can, you have to meet yourself. You can only meet someone else as much as you can meet yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's something to that.
Yeah, you got to be present,
Yeah.
for everything in life, right?
Yeah,
Just being
I think,
aware.
and if you can cultivate the relationship with the observer, like through meditation, through your breathing,
Hmm.
right? Just take a breath before you start to go into a reaction. Then presence actually comes with that.
Yeah.
You're just building the space of actually being present, with your family, with people around you. But it is sometimes the hardest to do it with family, with spouse, with children, with people who are close to you, because you don't govern yourself the same way you would in a professional situation.
Sometimes that is though. What do you think about this? Because when I've been trying to balance out that work and see the similarities, I think at home I tend to have myself personally tend to have this hierarchy, like I'm dad, like the king mentality. That's how I've in previously that's kind of how I walked around in the house. Yeah, so there's a hierarchy, and so I feel like I'm always talking down to them because I'm the dad and I know better, But in a work setting, this is my client, this is my customer, and I'm trying to earn this job.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm speaking to them from neutrality. So like, what is that? How are we getting there? How are we, what role does the hierarchy play in our personal lives, and how that relates to like the professional field where we see ourselves more like we're trying to get that
role.
job. Yeah.
That goes back to a role.
But we're always in roles though. So that in itself, I'm trying to figure out that bridge. There's a bridge there somewhere. I haven't been able to easily navigate that, but I would like to find where that is so that I can easily get into those modes of like the observer. Hey, like quit amplifying your
hurt.
My little boy hurts, like little Noel's getting hurt right now. And now
he has to like react.
The current offender,
fight back.
Whoever's pissing me off right now is going to feel all of that, like we talked about before. So I need to, in order to get to that place, I have to feel like I'm trying to earn something from this person. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
At work.
Yeah, work. This is like, it's a transaction. You're paying me and I'm providing you a service.
Also, I would need to keep my job. Like if you were working for someone else.
Oh, you know what? That's true. Yeah. Like you can get fired there. I mean, yeah.
Your survivalhood could be compromised.
Well, that's taking people for granted basically. So yeah, that's a good point. So
yeah,
I don't know where that, that thread is that we can pull to untie that knot of getting to that point.
Well, I think, when we're at home with our families, there is a level of vulnerability that we go into because we're not in professional mode or we're not in I have to watch everything I do mode. Also, we're playing out so many different stories with our closest family members or the people who we live with, whether it's a spouse or with children or whatever. We're playing out all these different stories, all of our own hurts in many ways unconsciously for the most part. And so, most of the things that they do or don't do, we take very personally. And then we react from that. And so that's where it's like, you go into regret because you're like, I really didn't want to do that, but I did. You're just not as on guard, with your behaviors as you are when you're in a professional environment. Also, when you're in a professional environment and you are suppressing what you're really feeling that's going on, you then go home with a level of stress from not really expressing yourself, in a way that probably felt like more natural to you. So then your families get the brunt of whatever you didn't express during your day.
Who took fucking shit home with them from work and just kind of transference of energy into their kids.
You walk in, they're like, ugh, it smells like shift.
Yeah. I like my kids have literally said to me, like, we just didn't know what kind of mood you're going to come home in.
Yeah. See, now everybody that you dealt with during the day professionally was like, what a nice guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing. And then you go home, you're like, wow, and they're like, oh, we got to see, let's all stay away. Well, your customers got the best of you.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I've been pretending to be my best self for at least 12 hours.
I can't do it anymore.
I need to let this shift out right now. Yeah.
I got to go take a big shift.
Yeah.
And it's going to be on all over you guys.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah. They're like, no. So, is that what we wanted? That's what most people do.
Yeah.
But then there comes a point where you're going to have to pay the piper because your family's like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. We don't want it.
Yeah. I mean, we're basically enabling each other by like allowing that to happen within the dynamic of the family, So it's definitely not a healthy way.
No, I think
to exist.
It's not. And I think that one of the keys to getting to the other side of it is, okay, obviously awareness that it's happening. Number one step, awareness that it's happening. Unfortunately, it comes after usually one of the big 3Ds, the big, death, diagnosis, divorce, that you're like, wow, something's got to give. And then, maybe you are able to like do some work and go into that. But it would be really nice if you could go into an awareness by cultivating an observer in you to be like, is this really how I want to respond? How could I do this differently? And then start to choose to be response able, right? In those moments. But, and somebody's got to go first. Like you can't be like, everybody's going to change right now. You can't change other people. You have to go first.
Yeah.
And you need to work on that for yourself. And then let that be the invitation for anyone who's, in your range, in your periphery to be like, that's different. And I like it. How do you do that?
That's the double-edged blade though, because when a lot of times in relationships, whether it be, intimate or sibling, whatever the relationships, what I'm trying to think here is
like the people closest to you don't need to, they're not always going to be.
Yeah, but they're not always entering into awareness at the same time.
Oh,
right?
Rarely.
Yeah, right. So once you're starting to like get into that, place of yourself where you're like seeking that new things, like why am I like this? Yeah. Oh man, connecting the dots, if you will. The other it creates solitude, which is important because
isolation.
It's an important part, and that's the part that I'm learning right now is because, now you have to really be okay with being yourself and meeting all of your own needs because the other person can't meet those needs for you. And they never could. That's the reality.
And it's not really their job.
No, it's not
to meet all your needs.
Yeah.
But it's
nice when they like to, or when,
Yeah, or when,
comes out of love.
The thing is like maybe you're the invitation for them to want to do that for themselves. They can only meet you where they've been able to meet themselves.
Yeah.
But it's not something that happens within everybody at the same time normally.
Yeah.
Unless it's just been blown to smithereens, and then maybe even then.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to still come to their own desire to want to shift.
Yeah.
But you have to go first. Somebody's got to go first. And you have to fully see it through for you. It can't be for someone else.
Yeah.
There is a hope that it could be an invitation, but it can never be that you fix or quote unquote fix or change yourself in order for someone else to see it. It needs to be something that happens naturally for you because it's who you are or who you want to be or how you want to, kind of live out your life.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit about like detachment or disassociation, right? Like the difference.
Oh yeah. And in relation to the observer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the hard part is like detaching yourself from the situations, right? In order to make it easier to process and handle those things.
Yeah. Well,
right. So what's the difference between disassociating or detaching from those? What would you?
For me, detachment feels like I'm not emotionally, I don't feel emotionally charged to the outcome of something. If I feel emotionally charged, meaning like I feel anger or like I'm clinging or I need this to go a certain way, I'm attached to the outcome. And so being able to get to a place of detachment doesn't mean like I don't care.
Yeah.
That's not what it means. It just means I know that I'm okay with however this works out. Like if I was going to go for a certain job.
Yeah.
And I, the more that I can have a detachment to the outcome of that, the likelier the possibility that will come to me because I'm not repelling it with my neediness or my want or my clinging to it. But also it creates, my nervous system can kind of regulate much easier, and I don't feel like this emotional charge to the outcome of something. So I think if you look at a situation that was very upsetting or whatever, and you feel like an emotional charge to it, there's an attachment to the outcome or an attachment to how that's affecting you, and what maybe something you're not able to let go of, an old story about what it means about you. There's just something that just feels emotionally charged. And then disassociation, I would say, is like where you're just like, I can't do this. I need to completely disassociate. That's not really detachment, because detachment, I think, is more neutral.
Yeah, because I kind of thought like when people were saying you need to detach and let go, you know, all
it's
those
like,
things.
I don't care.
When I really was, you know, thinking of those as surface things like, oh, okay, you got to, you know, get a divorce, or you got to let that person go, or you got to stop being that person's friend. Like that's detachment. But that's like disassociation in a sense. But what I found to be more true, I guess, would be that it's more about letting go of the feelings behind what's the real source of all the hurts that are making you feel like finding a way to detach from those things, you know, finding where you're not free and detaching yourself from the places you aren't free. I think that's what detachment really.
Yeah. But you have to become aware of those spots.
Yeah. That's
where you're not free, which is, you know, you can feel it in your body.
Yeah.
You can feel that emotional charge. That emotional charge shows you where you're not free. There's something happening there.
Yeah.
There's something for you to look at deeper that probably has nothing to do with the current situation, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not a form of I don't care. It's more like I can get to a neutral place and I don't feel emotionally charged. I don't feel like I need this outcome to be a certain way, or else this is the whatever story you've made about it.
Yeah.
That's a place of detachment. The detachment to me can equal a sense of neutrality.
Yeah.
So that, hey, whatever it is, whatever is going to happen, it's all perfect.
Yeah.
I know that. And I'm okay with it. You can have a preference.
Yeah.
But you can feel in your body when it feels more neutral or when it feels more like clinging to something, that I need it to go this way. And that's where, one, you're probably going to repel the very thing that you're trying to experience.
Yeah.
And two, your nervous system will be very dysregulated.
Yeah.
So with this association, though, to me, that just feels like I have to check out because it's not safe.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to disassociate from. And if I feel like with disassociation, there could be like a loss of an opportunity to learn something.
Yeah.
You know, about yourself.
Yeah, because that's where like you said, treasures are in
your triggers.
The triggers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, sometimes there are times when it probably isn't safe, you know, to stay in a situation or a feeling, and maybe that disassociation might be the thing that feels safer. But take note of what that was and make a commitment to yourself to go back and further investigate what that was and see that there's probably some work there. There's probably a treasure there.
Yeah.
For you to go into and to get deeper into yourself.
So what things are practices? I think for me, it's just, I think finding stillness, like, because we're such a
busy,
absorbing everything, you know, consumer. Human doings.
Instead of human beings.
Like anything that you can find a way to just sit still.
Yeah.
With just yourself. If you could practice sitting with yourself longer and longer at times, or whether that be meditation or prayer or whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
Just having some time where you're silent, you know.
Connecting with yourself.
I think that's a way to cultivate that observer.
Yeah, definitely connecting with your body, because your body is the thing that signals you that something's going on. So if you can get more in tune with like how you feel, whether it's through sitting in stillness, meditation. I love, like, you know, mantra meditation is very simple. And I feel like it's been something that's like going to the gym and cultivating that observer muscle.
Yeah.
For sure. But even if, you know, one of the very simple things for somebody who's like, I can't meditate, I can't do this, is almost start to think of whatever it is that's happening, like you're watching it as a movie.
Yeah.
And you're watching the movie, you're observing the play that's happening in front of you.
Yeah.
And maybe then you can kind of step back and go, oh, interesting, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
And what would I like to do about it? So maybe that's a way, if you just don't meditate, you can't be in nature, you can't just connect to your breath, which, yes, you can. But maybe you start to like play it out like, what if this was something I was watching? Because you are. There's a part of you that is watching it. Can you connect with that part, not take it personal, and just, watch what's going on and then choose something different for yourself if you'd like.
Yeah. Well, this is another episode of Let That Shift Go. And we'd like to thank you for listening. I'm Noel.
I'm Lena.
And we'll see you next episode and have some new topics for you. Hopefully we can get something from our experiences from last week into the next. See you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.